In this video, it's going to be the install of the VF Supercharger kit. A side note that I want to do before I move on is, so what I did in the previous video was I just gutted everything out that needed to be out to get the VF kit ready. And if you follow the instructions that come with the kit, what they pretty much do is they remove the item and then they replace it with what goes in the VF kit. I didn't go that route. I just wanted to, like I said before, I just wanted to gut everything out, so when I'm done with gutting whatever I have to gut out, it'll just be easy just to install the VF kit one after another. That's what I did. You don't have to do that, but it's totally up to you. Alright, let's begin with the install. First thing I'm going to install of the kit is the coolant tank reservoir. So there's this breather hose that's right here, and that hose is going to go up. There's these little holes right up here. Out through, there's a hole right here that's going to come out right there. Right here is the vent hose, so I routed into that hole right there. It'll come out right here. There's a little hole, so you just gotta pull this through. So now you can go ahead and connect the vent hose back to the reservoir tank, and that's what you want to do. Well, I have here the layout of the coolant lines and how it goes, and I'll explain. So from right here is the bottom of the reservoir, which I'll show a little image real quick. Then it goes to here to a T connection, and this hose right here is your fill port. So this is where I'm going to be topping off with coolant. Then from the other T connection, it runs to the water pump. From the water pump, it goes to the radiator, which is represented by this VF box here. And from there, this longer hose goes all the way up to the supercharger, which is represented by this box. So it goes in cold and it comes out hot through right here. Then you have a 90-degree elbow, and then right here goes back to your reservoir tank. So then it just does that whole loop, and hopefully that makes sense. And I'll also post a screenshot of the layout as well. Here is the reservoir tank up, and so you can kind of see the profile that's tucked in there. So this did take me a while to get it installed right. Just gotta maneuver it just right, and also, you gotta keep aware that this is hitting up against the fuel tank, so there's like a little slot here. So just keep in mind to make sure you do it right, so you're not pinching the wires for the return signal. So what I recommend is to actually go ahead and install the return line, which is this hose right here, and then this hose line right here that sends it to the water pump at the same time, because once this is installed, it's going to be kind of hard to connect this into the reservoir tank, and obviously, as you can tell how cramped it is up there, it's going to be nearly impossible to try to install a hose as it is right now. So go ahead and install that, tying up the little hose fasteners, and then so here is the return hose right here. So this is going to go up right up here. So this is the route for the water hose. So it goes here. Here's a T connection right here, and this right here is the fill port, which is this right here. So it comes out of this hole right here, and this is where you'll be topping it off with coolant. So then from that other T connection, this will run to the water pump. This is how I have the water pump right now. So what it does, it uses the two most right bolts. That's for the oil pan. So you have to remove these bolts and then use it to have this little harness to strap on the water pump. So it connects right here from that T connection, and then from right here, this hose will go to the radiator, and then I'll do this towards the end. So that it goes through the radiator, then it'll go into this other hose right here. It's right now I don't have it routed 100% yet, but just to give you an idea, it'll go into the supercharger here, go cool it, and then it'll come out of this hot water. So then this hose right here wraps around here with a 90-degree elbow, that's right here, and then it's right here, the hose right here along my finger, back to the top, and then just does that whole cycle all over again. Right now I have the connected to the water pump right now. So right now this is going to be to a ground, and it is a black, so it does come in black, so it tells you it's a ground. And the other one is the hot wire, which is a red cable. So what I did is I actually routed it through here and I put some zip ties all the way to the underside. So we're on the driver's side of the car now. So here's that hot wire, comes up here, and then right here I have it going up, and it comes up to here to the relay. So then from here you get 3 wires that come out of here. So the 2 of them is going to be a red one, which is this one right here. This one will go to your positive terminal on the battery, and then this one is your black wire, and this will go to the ground terminal of the battery. And then the third one is this yellow one. So this yellow one is going to be spliced into this cable right here. That's the red and the gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and strip this, cut this in half, cut this, and then I'm going to go ahead and splice. And here I have the red and gray wire cut in half, and I stripped it. I have it all spliced together. I'm going to go ahead and use some electrical tape and tape it up really good so it doesn't come apart on me. Now we have the yellow wire right here spliced with that white and gray, the red and gray wire, which is this middle one right here. Found a negative and a red wire, live wire. So I did is I routed it through right here, along down here, and the red wire obviously to the red terminal, and then the ground right here to the ground wire. Now we're gonna install the spark plugs that come with the kit, and they're already gapped to 0.03. All 8 spark plugs are back in, all 8 coil packs are back in, and then the wire harness is all connected. And one thing to keep in mind is save a box and just put like what it's gapped to, just as a reminder, and also, you know, have the part number. Whenever it's time to replace this, I can always look at this box and not try to remember what it was. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the oil filter relocation. So I went ahead and put in the new O-rings. So there's the circle O-ring here and this kind of figure 8 O-ring right here. Here is the oil filter relocation, what it looks like. So now let's go ahead and put on the oil filter housing. Here's the oil filter housing with its relocation, pretty much what it looks like. Everything's torqued to spec, and then the connection in the back's connected, and the new oil filters in here now. So the kit does come with a bypass for the coolant hose here. So if you're familiar, there's like a big old long S-shaped hose that connects into here and out here. Goes straight from the pipe right here, straight to here, to this little pipe for the coolant. It definitely saves a lot of space back here, so it's less cluttery. Do keep in mind there is coolant in this line, so when you do take it off, it is going to be pouring out a lot of coolant. So just have a drain pan underneath, and just there's really not much you can do. So you can see how much I kind of emptied out my reservoir. Here's an overview so far before installation. So I went ahead and removed. So you're going to reuse the throttle body from the stock, from the old manifold setup to the new setup over here. So if you remember, if you notice, this part right here was laying like this, or standing up like this, and the instructions, they have it laying down like this. So just be advised of that. So go ahead, connect these hoses right here. So this right here would be your where your PCV valve will be connecting to, and here you got another vacuum line. And I almost forgot, I did put a heat reflective tape. It's up to you if you want to do it, but I recommend it. So yeah, that's an extra step that I did. So right now I'm having some fitment issues, and the reason is, so right here got these little guides right here. So 1, 2 right here, and 1, 2 right here. But something I'm just now realizing, on the kit they only have 1 on this side and it's up in the front, and then 1 back here towards the back on this side, so they didn't drill holes here. So I'm gonna have to head and remove the ones corresponding to these, so then it'll be a good fit. Finally have the supercharger installed. So it took several tries to finally get it just right. I was having problems with the dowels, so I ended up having to remove all 4 dowels. So with that being said, to align it with the gasket, it did take a few tries to get it just right, because those dowels help a lot to align things. But just for me, those dowels was not helping me at all, because the holes that they drilled in here weren't long enough for the dowels to fit. So when I put it on, it would be wobbly. It wouldn't be flush with the heads. So that's why I had to remove all 4 of the dowels. And also I had to remove the fuel rail in order to get to these screws to torque the manifold down onto the heads. Because if you look at a vertical view, you can't reach those screws right there. You can't reach them, so you got to remove this so you can be able to torque that. Then you can go ahead and install the fuel rail, and that kind of brings another challenge that I experienced, was trying to tighten these 10mm nuts here for the fuel rail onto the manifold. So I'm going to eventually have to get some I think they're called crow hooks to try to, so I can do it from the side, because if you use like a 10mm wrench, little one, it's at an awkward angle that you can't reach it. As for the front part of the supercharger, I hadn't connected the blue sensor and the black, and the other 2 I left disconnected because the gray one's for the SAI, and since I have that deleted, there's no need to have that connected. And this black one is for the OEM, the flapper on this connection right here. I can't think straight right now. So that, and on the other side I have the blue connection back on and the black, and then down there I have the AC connected back on, because I am still going to be running the AC, and then the engine mount, which I have a little plug down there as well. So that's for the front part of the supercharger. One thing I almost forgot to mention, so this open nozzle right here, so this is originally, if you do have the SAI still in your car, this is what this hose be. Because I have that deleted, as I mentioned before, I'm going to use this here as my boost gauge. I'm going to run a little hose into the car and set up a boost gauge in there, so I know how much PSI the supercharger is putting out for me. For the back part of the supercharger, it is a very tight squeeze for a lot of things, so you just gotta kind of move things accordingly. So right now I do have just the hose for the PC valve. I'll do this later. And then underneath that, there's a little valve, which is this guy right here, which connects to this right here in the OEM. I still haven't connected this yet, and I'm still waiting to connect this. Once all this is all done, and in the air box, I'll go ahead and put my cool air intake, install that, and then right here the coolant lines. So it is going to be a very tight fitting back here, so just keep that in mind. So I'm not 100% done back here yet, but just to give you an idea. Oh, and then the connector for the throttle body is also connected. Now I'll go ahead and install the auto tensioner, and in order to install this, we are going to have to remove the bottom bolt of the alternator. So this bolt right way down here of the alternator, that's going to be replaced with this bolt. So in order to do that, obviously remove that bolt from the alternator, and then we're going to have to remove this bolt from the auto tensioner. And once this black plate right here is removed, it's going to be held on to the engine with these screws right here, here, and obviously the spares because they just fell out, and then this one that's going to be replacing that lower alternator bolt. And then we can go ahead and put on the tensioner onto the back plate. So went ahead and removed the bolt. So this is what it looks like on the inside part of the auto tensioner. And then now this is the frame here I was talking about. So it's going to be mounted onto the engine. So you're gonna use the 2 screws that they supply, and that 1 screw, the long screw, that's gonna be replaced. Will be replacing that alternator. So keep in mind, you put, so this is gonna be flush with the back plate right here, and it comes with the spacer right here. That's gonna go in right here. So don't forget about that spacer to align this plate. Can't really see it good from here, but I have the bolt right here for the alternator screwed on, and then the 2 bolts here, the lower 2 bolts to the engine. So I'm going ahead and now, and these are all torqued to specs from what VF requires. The pulley is now installed and everything's torqued to spec, and just make sure when it does that it spins freely, that it's not hitting up against the oil cooler. So now we're going to go ahead and put the idle pulley, and the idle pulley goes right here, which is this right here, and it goes in this way. Alright, so the belt is finally on. So it is, if you can have a buddy to help you out, this would make things a lot easier. So what was recommended to me was put in the belt how it goes, and leave the idle pulley out, and then with some kind of pry bar, but I have this right here, you're gonna put it in here, and then you're just gonna try to close it down, and at the same time, while you're holding this auto tensioner down with that pry bar, you're gonna try get in with your right hand with idle pulley, start hand threading it to the threads, and you want to be careful not to let go of this too soon, because you don't want to be cross threading this. That's like the last thing you want to happen to you. So yeah, so that's, everything looks good. One thing I did notice, for me, I don't know if it applies for everybody, I was getting some clearance issues here with the hose here for the oil cooler and the belt itself. So I just kind of shaved away on the hose, so there's no so it's not rubbing against that, because that's another thing. I don't want the belt to be snapping on me here. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. You can see the belt is really tight in there, and the auto tender is pretty much kissing the crank wheel here. So yeah, so that is the belt right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the power steering. And what I'm going to do, also, you're going to need to, because it will get messy, I'm pretty sure it will, get yourself a drain pan. And what I got is these little hose clampers. What I'm going to do is clamp them on the power steering, because I don't want to drain all of this. Eventually I'm going to have to drain all of this, so it's going to just pour into here, and this will just help me from making even more of a mess from this side of the radiator of the power steering, if that makes sense. And then once that's all said and done, we're going to go ahead and remove this, and then go ahead and put on the heat exchanger for the coolant for the supercharger. So the power steering is off, so here's what it is. I went ahead and try to drain as much as I can, so I'm just going to cover these holes up, and then we're going to go ahead and replace that's how much power steering came out, a little bit, so not that much, which is nice. So here's the new heat exchanger for the power steering. These threads will connect onto here, and on this end will connect to the hoses that we just clamped right over here, the 2 hoses right up there. Alright, so the power steering heat exchange is now installed. I got it connected up in there. So right now I'm going to leave it like this. So right now I've been topping it off and letting it drain, then we're going to top it off. It's a very slow process. So next, while that's doing that, next what we're going to have to do is go ahead and remove this out of the way, and then we're going to actually put the coolant heat exchanger for the supercharger here. Finally, I have it all put together. All that's left is the front bumper and then the headlights. So just to give you a heads up, I was having a lot of fitment issues. If it wasn't this, bumping up with the latch, so I did a slight modifications to drop the radiator down just a little bit, and then I had to alterate the latch. You can see all the little, it's not so ugly, but once I'm all said and done, I'm gonna spray paint this black so it doesn't look all, and I had to Dremel right into here, and I have to Dremel right here in order for that latch to not, if you can see, so be bumping. So yeah, so it's been a very a fun few days trying to get Fitment ready, so everything's all good. Coolant, I'm going to be running this, and then obviously distilled water, so I'm going to do a 50-50 blend, so nothing different from when you're doing the coolant on the car. So this is where you're going to fill in the fill line. Here is a vent hose, and also on top of that, I open this so that air can pass through. Then once it gets up to here, then I'm going to go ahead and tap this off, and just continue leaving this open and still continue filling through the fill port. So right now I have the car in auxiliary mode. So right now I'm letting the water pump down here running. You can hear it running. And then you can hear, so feeds the line, and here's the fill line. So right now there's no indication on how to tell when I'm full besides looking down this, or you can do it when you're hearing it. So, because again, this is the fill line, the fill line right here. So once the pouring stops, then that's when you're getting closer and closer to the being full. So that's how I'm gonna tell by if I'm full or not once this trickling sound right here stops. But so far so good, no leaks, no nothing. And also fuel line as well, no leaks at all. I just have this just for precaution. The coolant is now topped off, and what I found out is obviously you don't hear the water trickling anymore. All you hear is the water pump. And also what I found out was coolant came out of the breather hole, so you can kind of see it's a little wet. So yeah, just keep in mind it will come out. I wasn't aware of that, but now I am. So now the fluid's all, I'm going to leave it running in auxiliary mode. Still keeping an eye on the fuel rails, make sure there's no leaks, and also no leaks throughout the coolant system. And yeah, just leave it like this for right now. Wait overnight, see if there's any drops on the floor and whatnot. So yeah, just a heads up when you do turn off the car. Keys here. The water pump will still run for several seconds. So you can tell I just turn off the car. Hear the pump still going. There. So just keep you advised, it is gonna run once you turn it off. So I'm gonna leave it like this, like I mentioned, overnight. See if there's any leaks, and if there is a leak, which I hope there isn't. I've double checked, triple checked everything, but just tighten it. That's all I really can do, and see where the leak is. And yeah, so far everything looks good. Again, I'm gonna leave the fuel rail, the napkins here over the fuel rail, just to make sure there's no leaks overnight, now that there is fuel on the fuel rail. So everything's back together, except for the front, the grills here for the fog lights, and then the wheel, and then the cover. But overall, the majority of what needs to be done is done. Haven't started it up yet. I'm waiting to do just a few little things before I get it tuned from Jackal Motorsports. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole gist of installing this kit and whatnot. But I'm very excited to finally start her up. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.